Hey guys, Jordan Mauriello with CRITICALSTART here, Senior Vice President of Managed Services. Today I have with me Michael Balboni, President of Redland Strategies, former Senator, Assemblyman, and advisor to Homeland Security. Honored to have him here with us today. We've been doing some awesome discussions about things that we're doing at CRITICALSTART and working with Redland Strategies, but today we wanted to take an opportunity just to talk to Michael about some general cybersecurity issues. He's a major influencer in our community. I know many of you already know who he is, and has had a major impact even on some of the legislature that we've seen around our industry too as well. So we wanted to take a time to get some thoughts from him on some of the direction the industry's going and the impact that some of the changes we see in cyber in general are having on national defense and the role of Senate and Congress and where that's going from a legislature perspective too. So we're going to open up and have a nice fun conversation here about some of these issues. So thank you so much for being with us, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Jordan, and thanks for your service to the country and the military.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your support.
We need to change the whole paradigm of how we look at threats. Are we looking for the bad, or should we have should we look at behavior in a trusted kind of way and maybe build a database, a registry, if you will, to be able to catalog what are the normal course of business operations that we know are trusted in behavior, and maybe create that baseline that if there's a variance of that we can instantly go and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's what we have to take a look at. And everything else, you push it back and say, no, you're not coming in. And so I think that might change the paradigm of response. And I'm really interested in that strategy.
Obviously, we agree with you on that one fundamentally, as that's kind of part of our model even here is working off of a model where you're building a trusted behavioral registry. But I think that's a paradigm shift that the industry has to see, as we constantly play this game where we're chasing the known bad and always looking for how to identify bad in a higher fidelity mechanism or to add more detail and enrichment to known bad so that we can find it in this massive sea like we talked about earlier. And it's not working for a couple of reasons. You talked about the attacker advantage, right? The attacker advantage is they only have to be right one time, right? And we only have to be wrong one time to lose. And that's, the expectation that we would hit 100% as defenders is unrealistic. And that's why we have to have that resiliency. I think that's why the model, the paradigm for analytics, for how we look at data and security has to be shifted so dramatically, because we are not catching up. We're definitely falling behind when it comes to that mechanism.
Well, we also have, we're really obsessed with the infrastructure of security and we're not data centric.
Yeah.
And it goes back to your original comment about how we triage what we need to protect. You don't need to protect everything. No, you don't. And therefore, I'm not saying that you should tolerate, intrusions, tolerate breaches, but you should, at the very least, focus all of your efforts on protecting the main point of your company, your business, the people you serve, which is their data and the data you have as your company. Yep. And so, from that perspective, we've got to be able to stop anything from getting into that environment. And the question becomes, how do we do that effectively, timely? One of the things that really gets me crazy is when I hear about the dwell time stories. That is the amount of time that malware will sit on a network before it's discovered and addressed. In that time, so much damage can be done. From beginning to, as we talked about beforehand, surveilling the network for vulnerabilities, surveilling the network for assets that you might want to raise up in terms of the profile. We want to go get this stuff. And then being able to recognize other avenues to get into other networks. A lot of times what we're seeing now is that one of the attacks that will be used is to take a network and make it into a bot network, and basically commandeer that network and say, okay, now we're going to attack others, and then you send a note to the network administrator saying, by the way, we've compromised your network. We're going to use your network to attack others unless you pay this amount of ransom. Yeah. So there's no lack of invention or creativity from the development of different threat vectors, but there is a lack of imagination when it comes to how we prevent those things from happening, because we're stuck in this defense, this castle keep type of mentality.
I completely agree. And I think you're right. You see all these different creative mechanisms in the attack. We talked about turning it into a botnet, whether that's for attack or even for, we call crypto jacking today. They're going to take those systems and use the computing resources to mine cryptocurrency. Right. And we have all these creative mechanisms, again, getting back to monetizing that threat. And I think the dwell time remarks are dead on. I think some of the reports we've seen from some of the big players doing threat intelligence in our space they're a scathing analysis of our industry's capability. When we're looking at dwell times in excess of 45, 80, 120-day dwell times as averages in different sectors in our industry, you definitely see this massive difference in organizations and capability. And there's not a standard set maturity.